What's the most heartbreaking last words you ignored from someone who passed? My dad always wished me happy birthdays every year. Last year, I was angry at him for missing my graduation, so I ignored his call. Let it go to voicemail. Hey, sweetheart, just calling for your special moment. I know you're still mad about graduation. I should have been there, but the doctors, well, never mind. I just want you to know how proud I am. Remember what I always say. When life gets dark, look for the light switch. Love you, kiddo. I deleted the voicemail without listening. He passed away 3 days later from cancer he'd kept secret. The doctors had given him 2 months to live right before my graduation. 6 months later, I hit rock bottom. Lost my job, apartment, and was sitting in my car at 2 a.m., pills in hand. I had this sudden urge to hear his voice one last time. The voicemail was still in my deleted folder. After hearing, I broke down completely. I cried that whole night and kept blaming myself for not picking his call that day. I took so many pills wanting to leave this world, but some stranger saw me throwing things from my car and called 911. 2 years have passed. I'm married now, but I still sometimes get thoughts of leaving this world. Every birthday, I play his voicemail and cry, wishing I had just picked up that call. Subscribe if you love your dad.
Medical professionals, when have you told a patient, I've seen it all before, to reassure them, even though you'd never encountered something so bad? I'm an ER tech, and a few months ago, we had an elderly gentleman come in with severe shortness of breath. As I was getting him into the gown and into hospital socks, I noticed very old yellowing bandaging around his foot. I inquired about its purpose, and he told me it was a large wound on the back of his heel that wasn't getting better. I asked him if I could unwrap it to inspect it, possibly rewrap it. Basic wound care is one of my duties. And it was a literal hole in his heel about 4 centimeters in diameter, skin necrotic around the edges, with a large flap of skin covering the middle. I wasn't terribly shocked until I swore I saw the skin flap writhe a little bit. I got the patient's consent to look under the skin flap, and sweet galactic Jesus, there were 3 sizable maggots just chilling. I've read about it before, but I have never seen it in person. My brain went, what in the solar fuck? And despite my attempt at a poker face, the gentleman read my reaction and asked, is it that bad? I was straight up with him and told him that the wound had maggots and needed immediate treatment, and the poor guy started apologizing for bringing something disgusting. I told him, I see this more often than you think. Maggots are actually great at cleaning out dead tissue and are used as treatment sometimes. He seemed relieved by that, but it was definitely my first time ever seeing a maggot-infected wound.
I'll never forget what my boyfriend was willing to do to be with me. I knew my new boyfriend Leo had a severe allergy to cats, but I didn't think it would be a deal breaker until the first time he came to my house and he practically keeled over. I had an enormous, aggressively affectionate Maine Coon, Beans, who had been in my life since college, and unfortunately, thought Leo was the best thing since canned cat food. If Leo so much as set foot in my apartment, Beans would hurl himself at him like a 20-pound furry missile, purring and shedding and sending my boyfriend into a sneezing, wheezing, swollen-eyed nightmare. I've tried every antihistamine, he said miserably. It's not working. I was heartbroken. I loved Leo, but I wasn't getting rid of Beans. Then Leo did something I wasn't expecting. He went to an allergist and started immunotherapy, the kind that required getting tiny doses of cat allergens injected into his arm every week for months. I thought he was kidding when he told me. He was not. I thought he'd quit halfway through. He did not. It took nearly a year, but one day, Leo came over, sat on my couch, and Beans climbed onto his lap. And nothing happened. No sneezing, no hives, just my boyfriend, scratching Beans behind the ears like it was no big deal. I won, he said smugly. I conquered your cat. My heart practically burst. I told him, you didn't conquer my cat. You just proved you love me enough to willingly inject yourself with poison for a year. He shrugged. Same thing. We're married now. Beans is still here, fat and happy. Sometimes I catch Leo petting him and whispering, you almost destroyed me. But in the end, love and medical science won. I wore white to my son's wedding, and I'm not sorry. Let me tell you about the most dramatic wedding day of my life, and trust me, I'm not exaggerating. My son was marrying this incredible woman from Vietnam, and I was beyond thrilled about bringing some cultural spice into our family tree. Here's where things get wild. My future daughter-in-law's mom helped me pick out this killer white dress. She swore it was totally cool in Asian wedding traditions, and we laughed about how absolutely scandalous it would be at an American wedding. Pro tip, when someone laughs that hard about a dress, run. Fast forward to the wedding day. Every single woman was decked out in gold, pink, or lavender, and there I was, stark white. The moment my daughter-in-law saw me, she lost it. I knew you hated me from the moment we met, she screamed, threatening to shut down the entire wedding. My heart absolutely shattered. I managed to calm her down, explaining the misunderstanding without throwing her mom under the bus. Some family drama is best kept quiet, you know? She eventually smiled, and I graciously moved to the audience, wrapped in a red scarf. This day was about them, not my fashion choices. But plot twist, during her speech, she dropped a nuclear bomb. My mother believes this marriage is a disgrace because my husband isn't Asian, and she tried to humiliate my mother-in-law by telling her to wear white. I nearly choked on my champagne. Then she did something I'll never forget. Walking up to her mother with a glass of deep red wine, she said, thousands of years ago, it was an Asian tradition to pour a drink over someone's head. And boom, the entire glass went right over her mother's beige dress. So mother, she continued, I hope this has taught you about outdated traditions. Her mother stormed off like a toddler who'd been denied dessert. The entire room was stunned. In that moment, I knew my son had found an absolute queen. Sometimes karma comes with a side of red wine. Have you ever met someone completely out of touch with reality? My old boss was a 26-year-old woman who got $4 million from her dad a year to have fun. And so every single year tried to become CEO of a new company she'd start up for fun. The employees never got paid on time, and she'd fire people with no warning or anything months after starting. I somehow held down that job for 6 months, until one day when she told us we were all going on a group outing for team bonding. The entire 8 people at the company. She canceled a call with a potential investor that day because if this fails, she'll just get a new company next year, and called herself a limo while forcing us to take public transport to a mall 4 hours away. And then, as soon as we got there, she told the rest of us 7 people that she was going to go shop and she'd see us later. Then every 2 hours, she'd let us know she was going to go unload her bags into the giant van she rented, and she'd group text us telling us we can meet her there to unload our purchases as well. Thing is, we were all getting paid under $30,000 before tax, and sometimes getting paid late. We had nothing to unload. By 3 p.m., she had proceeded to fill up the van with designer bags, designer merch, expensive suits, and makeup. At one point, she asked me where all my new stuff is, when I said I'm budgeting right now. She goes, take out your credit card and go shop. That's the American way. By 9 p.m., her bags were taking up people's seats, and we had to sit with her stuff on our knees. She spent $75,000 in one day out of the company's budget. The rest of us spent about $50. What's crazy is when the next month came around, she had to shut the company down. because that $75,000 was basically the last of the company money. People who work for the super rich. What things have you seen? As their housekeeper, I witnessed something that completely changed my view on wealthy families. The Andersons were worth billions, but their kids had no idea just how rich they were. Every summer, instead of luxury vacations, Mr. Anderson would drive his teenagers to local businesses to hand in job applications, not fancy internships. We're talking burger joints and grocery stores. The first time I saw this, I thought it was a joke. His daughter Sarah got hired at a local diner. She came home that first day crying about her aching feet and rude customers. I expected her dad to let her quit, but he just said, "That's why we tip well, honey." They made their kids deposit their minimum wage checks and budget for their own expenses. These kids who had trust funds worth millions were stressing over buying movie tickets and saving up for phones. One day, I overheard Sarah telling her friend, "Dad could buy the whole mall if he wanted, but he's making me work at this stupid diner." Her dad was around the corner and just smiled. Last week, Sarah defended a coworker who was being yelled at by a customer. When I asked her about it, she said, "Money doesn't give anyone the right to treat people badly." That's when I realized what the Andersons were really teaching their kids.
Moms of Reddit. Has your stepson ever took inappropriate pictures of you on his tablet? Tonight I noticed while I was in the pool with the younger kids. He went inside and grabbed his tablet. Then he ran back out and was sitting in a chair and very obviously taking photos of me. He then ran into the basement and shut the door. Just last week, I opened the open concept basement door to find him masturbating. I checked his tablet after bed, and it has multiple photos of my breasts and my butt cropped from various dates. It's disturbing and I don't know what the hell to do. These kids were abused at their mother's house before coming to live with us over a year ago. He has very impulsive ADHD, is a preteen, and a traumatized child. So how the hell does their dad and I go about this? And yes, we do have a therapist since last summer. It's just the weekend and we have no access to them.
What secret could ruin your entire life? I'm a teacher, and the day after we finished taking an important state exam, one of my students' mom called me to see if her son had passed. I looked at my grades and saw he did. She was so happy when I told her, and literally burst into tears of joy. She told me she had a big celebration planned for him, because this meant he'd likely get into college. When I got off the phone, still smiling, I realized I had read the wrong score. He failed. I instantly felt horrible, and had no idea what I was going to tell his mom. I checked, and he didn't have the grades to pass the class anymore. I looked over his test, and my heart broke when I saw he would have passed if he had got one more question right. I sat there thinking about how to tell her and was about to call her back, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Then I did something I had never done before. I changed his grade. This boy came to all of my classes, always smiled, always tried his best. I knew he deserved to pass. Without thinking, I went into the system and changed his grade to passing and left it. I couldn't sleep that night because I knew if anyone ever found out, I could go to jail. But seeing how happy he was when I handed his mark back made it worth it. What highly illegal thing happened at your school? We had 2 guys in our class who were known for constantly messing around and getting bad grades. They didn't care about school or graduating and only went because they were on the basketball team. I still remember sitting in class that day. For what seemed like no reason at all, they both decided to carry out a planned attack on one of our math teachers. They both didn't show up to class and knew when he'd be walking through the halls. They stood at the top of the stairs waiting for him, and as soon as he walked by, one of them pushed him from behind while the other stuck his leg out to trip him. We all heard the scream. He fell down all 20 steps, breaking his neck and back. Everyone rushed out of our classes to see what happened and saw the 2 guys just standing there. I guess they didn't think anything too serious would actually happen. An ambulance and even police showed up, and the 2 were immediately dragged to the office. When asked why they did this, their reason was because one of them was dropped from the basketball team for failing that teacher's math class. They decided they needed to get revenge on him, and the teacher ended up being paralyzed from the neck down. They literally ruined his life, and the craziest part was that since they were only 15, they only got sent to juvenile detention for a year.
What did that one teacher do that you'll never forget? I went to high school all 3 years with this mildly autistic kid who out of nowhere started getting bullied by a group of guys. Everybody loved him, but apparently these guys somehow figured out they could make him lose his cool if they repeatedly clicked their pens near him and pretended like nothing was happening. I'd watch as they purposely sat close enough to him so he'd hear it, and when our class was silent, they'd take turns clicking as loud as they could. He'd get all riled up by the sound, and they'd all just pretend like they couldn't hear anything. It got so bad, he had to leave class crying multiple times. Eventually, our teacher got mad at them for it, but this wasn't gonna let them stop them. They kept pretending like nothing was happening, and later, they took it to the next level. One guy convinced all his friends to follow him around, clicking pens and making different sounds without letting him notice. They legitimately made him think he was going insane, and nobody was stopping them. Then one day in class, just before he started having another meltdown, the quarterback of the football team stood up from his desk, picked up the bully's backpack, school books, and pens, and threw them all in the garbage. The kid looked at our teacher like, "You're just gonna let him do that?" And the teacher just pretended like she hadn't seen a thing. They stopped bullying him after that. What are some very comforting facts? A lot of the time in movies, dogs have to have CGI tails because they can't stop wagging their tails in real life. They are just so happy to be there. There is a group of bikers who will go to court when a child gets abused. They sit behind them when they have to speak, just to give them confidence and make them feel safe. In Switzerland, it's illegal to own just one guinea pig. If you want to buy one, you have to at least have two, because guinea pigs get lonely and need a friend. In 1866, 80 soldiers were sent to war. 81 of them came back because none of them died, and they made a friend. It's highly likely your pets are dreaming about you when they sleep. Bees tell all their friends about good flowers nearby by dancing. If you accidentally step on your pet's tail, they will forgive you. A bank robber in the 1930s was known for breaking into banks and burning mortgage papers so people didn't have to pay for their houses anymore. Scientists have discovered rats love to play hide and seek with each other. They even squeal in happiness when they get found. Cows have best friends and get stressed when they are separated from them. If you make it to the airport without dying, you've already passed the deadliest part about flying on a plane. Police officers, what's the most heartbreaking thing you've ever seen? I was just checking onto my shift, and as soon as I turned on my radio, I heard the report of a huge car accident not far from me. I started driving there and heard it was a head-on collision. When I got there, it was indeed a head-on collision. It was brutal. The family's van was crushed like a soda can on the side of the road after someone had swerved straight into them. I remember running as fast as I could to help, and my heart sank as it was immediately clear none of them had seatbelts on. 2 adults and 3 children were inside, and there was nothing I could do. Ambulances came, and doctors rushed to help them. There was nothing they could do. The worst part was, right after I helped pry open the back seat to get to one of the little girls, I recognized her. Every few weeks I would go to nearby schools to let them play with my police car and try on my hat, just to make them feel safe. I remembered this little girl because she would giggle after she pressed the sirens in my car. She looked at me as she was faintly still aware. She just stared at me, not blinking, as if she recognized me too. I don't think I'll ever recover from that. A week later, I went to the memorial at their school. I overheard her dad saying he wished he knew what officer was on scene so he could kill him for not doing anything. Hearing that cut deep, but if it were me, I'd probably be thinking the same. People who've gotten their nudes leaked. How did it turn out? When my girlfriend started noticing how much money I was making from my job, she started asking to see my paychecks. When I finally showed her, she completely changed, and a week later, just decided she was going to quit her job to become a trophy wife. I told her she needed to help out, but she just continued to buy whatever she wanted using my credit card and lay around while I worked. After a month of this, I had enough. I told her I was leaving her, and as soon as I said that, fireworks. We got into a huge argument, and I ended up staying at my parents' house, but the next morning, the worst imaginable thing happened. I checked my phone and saw numerous texts from my friends asking me what was going on. I quickly learned my girlfriend had sent my intimate photos to pretty much everyone I knew to get back at me, and it didn't just stop there. They got sent around so much I even got texts from coworkers asking me what was going on. I've never panicked more, as it was clear she was now trying to ruin my entire life. The photos had spread so much, a girl from my hometown 9 hours away texted me saying she saw them. She told me she was visiting soon and wanted to see if I was doing okay. We ended up going out, and that's how I got my current girlfriend.